President Biden's first address lasted a little more than an hour. As he has done numerous times before, he spoke directly to Americans and related to them on a personal level, especially when it comes to losing a loved one. For more, let's bring in Cody Keenan. Cody was a chief speechwriter for former President Obama. He's also a partner at Fenway Strategies and a professor at Northwestern University. Cody, welcome. Thanks very much for being with us. So what stood out to you most about the language that the president employed in his address and how the speech was written?
Yeah, it was actually about what I expected in terms of the language. It was clear, it was simple, it was concise, it was accessible. It was Joe Biden. He has a good conversational style about him that I think really works with people, whether he's talking about cancer in his son or, his son serving abroad. When he's talking about, the dose of hope right up top, he's just really good in those situations. And I'm heartened by that polling, but I also expected it. He did. Everyone's talking about how he laid out this big, bold agenda, but he also made it seem really doable and practical. He just has a way of asking, why don't we have childcare, for every parent? Why don't we have the opportunity to go to community college for free? In a way that people say, yeah, why don't we do those things? That makes sense. And it's just his style really worked well. And I actually think that having fewer people in the chamber worked really well. It helped him with his delivery. He was able to almost whisper at times. I commented to my wife that he and Michelle Obama both have a skill where they can kind of ride a line or two on a whisper that make you lean in closer to the television screen.
That's such an interesting observation, Cody. I hadn't thought about that. I wondered what that dynamic, as different as it was, how that was going to affect him. Because in speaking to some of our correspondents who have covered him during the campaign, for instance, they talked about how he was very much affected once the COVID protocols went into place and there was, social distance requirements, all of that. And it seemed to sap a little bit of energy. That was their observation because he has been used to those crowds and sort of taking the energy. But you're saying that quieter tone was a more effective kind of strategy almost in this particular setting at this time.
I think so. I was hopeful as a speechwriter. I was hopeful that a smaller crowd would eliminate some of the performative applause after every line. We never liked that. It adds
no such luck, Cody.
No such luck. You still got it, which made the speech kind of stretch out. But without that big audience, he seemed to fill the room in a way that you can't always when there are 1,600 people crammed in there. And, it seemed like a much more intimate bond between the speaker and the audience in a way that I think served him really well.
It's interesting because we're used to also in these addresses, there being in the executive box, people who represent those stories. The president peppered his address with the anecdotes of the individuals that he's met. And in typical times, those people would be seated there to reference. What did you make of the absence of that? Did that seem in any way to detract? Do you think it would have been better to have people there? I'm just curious because it was a certain rhythm that was different, not having those people to reference.
Yeah, I actually did not miss it. That box has been a tradition since the Reagan administration. I think his name was Lenny Skutnik, was a pedestrian who pulled passengers out of the Potomac after a plane crash, and he was up in the box. And every president's done that since. We certainly did it every time. And you can find some really wonderful stories of heroism to work into a speech, sometimes in ways that bolster your policy. But I liked not having it. I thought it gave his ending more power and punch about what our democracy could be without having to, lean on other stories as good as they might be. It was all Joe Biden all the way to the end. And, you always hear people questioning his stamina and whatnot. He just gave an hour and a half speech almost without taking a break. And that, I can tell you, that's a tough thing to pull off.
Cody, just some mechanical questions here. How long does it take to write a speech like this typically? And based on what you know about the president, how much do you think President Biden was involved with the writing process for this?
Yeah, for a speechwriter with the State of the Union address, time has no meaning. It just becomes this endless loop. So we would typically start drafting about 2 weeks out, give it to the president a week out. And then each day is just kind of this eternal slog, working with policy teams and fact checkers and the president. And then if the president wants to rework it in the last couple of days, that's like a whole week crammed into a day. So that's what I mean by time has no meaning. But I didn't get the sense that it happened to them on this one, that there had to be a lot of rewrites at the end. I do know from speaking with his team that the president was highly involved and engaged, and you could tell. And they send out the text beforehand, and he went off script a few times. I think all in ways that helped the speech.
All right, well, as someone who has had to write for some long-form projects, in addition to Day of Deadlines, the eternal slog feels very resonant with me. Cody Keenan, a pleasure to talk to you, Cody. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.